In this Chrome extension course, I'm going to take you from being a complete beginner to building your very own Chrome extension and publishing it on Chrome Web Store. I will show you everything you need to know in order to get started with Chrome extensions, build a useful extension that can interact with pages on the internet, complete with a pop-up and a hotkey to toggle functionality. Then after we're done, I'm going to show you how to publish your extension and also how to add newer versions when you want to update it once it's published. A few days ago, I created this extension. It has a toggleable feature that can hide distracting elements on chess.com. It can be toggled using the pop-up or using a hotkey. I will show you how to create your own extension with these features and how to publish it on Chrome Web Store. We're also going to update an already published extension together. Now let's talk prerequisites. To follow along this video, all you need is a computer, Chrome web browser, and a code editor. I will be using Visual Studio Code, but you can use any code editor you like. The first step is to create an empty directory for your extension. I'm going to call mine Chrome extension, but it would help to give your directory a name that is more descriptive. Now let's open our extension in a code editor. I'll be using Visual Studio Code today. I like to open Visual Studio Code by right-clicking and then clicking on Open in Terminal and then typing in code space period and hitting enter. And just like that, our directory is now open in Visual Studio Code. Now, the first file we want to create is a file called Manifest.json. Think of the Manifest.json as the heart of your extension, as it tells Chrome everything it needs to know about what your extension does, what permissions your extension would like to have, how to load resources, and how to trigger functionalities. A lot of the time, it's a good idea to copy code snippets from the docs in order to save some time and also make sure you don't make any mistakes. So I'm just going to find an example of manifest.json from the Chrome extension docs, and I'm just going to copy that, and then I will alter it for my own needs. So I'll just copy this snippet and paste it in my manifest.json file. The first key is manifest version. And according to the docs, manifest version is an integer specifying the version of the manifest file format that your extension uses. The only supported value is 3. So it's set to 3 already, so we don't need to change anything. Now, the second key we have over here is name. Name is the name of our extension. It's a string that identifies the extension in Chrome Web Store. So we should set our name field to whatever we want our extension to be called. Remember how I told you that I published an extension already? That's my extension on the Chrome Web Store. As you can see, the name of the extension is distractless chess. And that's exactly what I typed in my manifest.json when creating this extension. Let me show you. So as you can see, distractless chess. Okay, now for the manifest.json that we're working on in our example extension, let's make the name example extension. After that, we have version. So according to the docs, version is a string that identifies the extension version number. Of course, the version number for our example extension should be set to 1, since this is gonna be our very first working version. For my distractless chess extension, you can see that over here it says version 2 in the details on the Chrome Web Store. And that's because the second time I published it, I set version to version 2. After that, we have description. Description is a string that describes the extension on both Chrome Web Store and the user's extension management page. Let me show you how it looks on the Chrome Web Store. So description typically shows on the thumbnail of an extension. So to see it, we can search for distractless chess. Okay, here is the description. It also shows on the extensions management page. So if we click here and click on managed extension, we should see it. Here it is. That is the description that I have inputted for distractless chess. Now let's go to the manifest.json of the extension that we're creating together. And let's give an appropriate description. For example, an extension made for educational, not documentation, educational purposes. The key that we have after that is icons. I believe icons are self-explanatory. For Chrome extensions, icons should generally be in PNG format because PNG has the best support for transparency. However, they can be in any raster format supported by Blink, including BMP, GIF, ICO, and JPEG. I suggest that before adding icons, you check the docs and make sure you're uploading something that is supported, or just go for PNG. For my distractless chess extension, I copied this from the docs and I added it to my manifest.json, as you can see. And then I created icons to match the sizes with Adobe Illustrator. So for example, this icon is 16 pixels times 16 pixels. This one is 32 times 32. This one is 48 times 48. This one is 128 times 128 pixels. However, I added the icons at the end, like after I made sure that my extension works. So I suggest that we remove the icons key for now and add it again after we have an extension that does something we're happy with. Alrighty, so since the next step is going to be focusing on creating a functionality and making our extension actually do something, how about we load our extension into Chrome, so once we have a functionality to test, we could test it right away. Loading an extension into Chrome is actually so easy. First, we should go to Chrome, and then we want to click on Manage Extensions. If you find extensions here, just click on it and then click on Manage Extensions like this. But if you don't see extensions, then you can click on the three dots, and then you'll find extensions in the menu. And then you can also click on Manage Extensions. Okay, once you're on your extensions page, you want to turn on developer tools, like so. And then 3 new buttons will appear. We want to click on Load Unpacked. And then we want to find the directory that has our extension. Here it is. I called the directory Chrome extension. Okay, now let's select folder. Okay, as you see, here's our extension. We want our extension to do something. In fact, we want to be able to manipulate a particular web page. In order to do that, we're gonna need to write some JavaScript. So let's create a file that we will write the JavaScript, and we can call it content.js. Okay, so now that we have this file, we need to tell Chrome about it. Chrome will know about it if we include it properly in our manifest.json. So to do this, we need to add the key content scripts. All right, remember how I told you that I like to copy and paste whenever possible to minimize mistakes and save time? Well, in the docs, in the Chrome for Developer docs, if you scroll up on the page that teaches you about Manifest, you will find examples. And we've copied this example earlier, remember? Now let's click on Register a Content Script. And as you can see, here's an example of how to register content scripts. So in order to not mess it up, I'm just gonna copy the whole thing and just paste it. For the JavaScript, we should add the path to our JavaScript file. And in our case, we called it content.js. So let's edit the name here and just make it content.js. Then we have matches. So according to the docs, matches is required, and it specifies which pages this content script will be injected into. So for distractless chess, I have set matches to the URL for chess.com. But for our example, we could set it to all URLs. And we can do this by just typing all URLs like so. Now let's go ahead and write some JavaScript. How about we alter the color of all H1 elements on any website we visit? Okay, so doing this would be so simple. What we'll need to do first of all is select all H1 elements. So let's create variable headers, for example, and set it to document.query selector all. And we want to select all elements that are H1 elements. Now we want to iterate over all the headers and change their colors. Headers dot for each, header dot style dot color. Let's set the color to maybe purple. Alrighty, time to test our extension and see if H1 elements will become purple. Okay, so first we need to go to Chrome, obviously. And now we want to go to extensions because we've made changes to our extension. When we make changes to our extension, we typically need to reload it. To reload it, we just click on this icon right here. I'll just click on it. See, reloaded. Cool. So now if we go to any page and refresh, H1 elements should become purple. Okay, so I'll cross my fingers and refresh. Yay! Did you see that? It became purple. Okay, let's see if it works on other pages too. Maybe we can go to GitHub. Oh, Pico Can Fly is purple. It worked. Okay, maybe purple is a dark color. Maybe I can change it to something more obvious. Maybe pink is a better idea. Okay, so we go to our extensions tab, manage extensions, and we reload so that our extension would get updated with the changes we've made. And once we've done that, if we refresh, we should see pink here. Okay, it's pink. Nice, we did it. Okay, let's refresh this page also. Yay, content scripts became pink also. So obviously changing the color of an H1 element is very simple, and an extension that does just that is not going to be very useful. But knowing that you can super simply inject JavaScript into a page and easily alter its UI can unlock so many possibilities. For example, for distractless chess, I did something very similar in order to hide the elements I found distracting. So as you can see, I used query selector and I selected the elements I wanted to hide through their class names. To find the class names, I used Chrome developer tools. Let me show you. So I just went to chess.com and I went to the page where you get to play online, and I opened Chrome developer tools by right-clicking and hitting inspect. And since the elements that I wanted to hide show during games, I started playing games and trying to find the class name associated with each element. A lot of the time, elements have more than one class name. For example, we want to hide this username that shows at the beginning. That was kind of tough to do. Everything else was easy though. Like for example, to find out a class name associated with avatar, you can click on this and then click on the avatar, and as you can see, class names associated with avatar are player avatar component and player avatar. Let's see what we used in content.js. We used player avatar. I repeated the same process for every element I wanted to hide. Now let's talk about turning our extensions functionality on and off. Distractless chess gives users the ability to toggle the visibility of elements with a pop-up or through a hotkey. Alrighty, so in order to make a pop-up, we, as usual, need to tell Chrome about our pop-up. And to do this, we need to add the action key. Where is it? Let me search for it. Action. Yes. So action defines the appearance and behavior of the extension icon on Google Toolbar. It also does more than that though. Let's look at pop-up with permission in the examples section. As you can see, pop-up is added to the action key. I'm just going to copy this part and just add it to my manifest.json. Okay, so after content scripts, I'll add a comma and just paste. Okay, so now we can add the file popup.html. We can create it. And since popup.html is an HTML file, let's add some HTML boilerplate. Let's take a look at the popup.html in this trackless chess. Maybe we can save some time with a little bit of copy pasta. All right, so here's popup.html. As you can see, I haven't created a separate CSS file, and I added styling in the same file. The body itself doesn't contain that many elements. However, it contains a horrible typo. Have you guys noticed it? I did, in fact, misspell my own extension's name. I wrote distractless instead of distractless. And I submitted it to Chrome Web Store with a typo. So now I'm gonna have to submit version 3 to fix the typo. I'm not very proud of that. Alrighty, so now we fixed the typo in distractless chess. Later, we're gonna submit our new extension directory. For now, let's copy everything within our body element and paste it in our popup.html within our example extension. Alrighty, so now let's look at what we've pasted. The first item is obviously the title of the extension. Let's make it example extension. And then we have a div element that contains the input checkbox as well as the label for it. It says hide distractions. Let's make it change H1 color. And let's keep the input element as is. And then there's hotkey information. Let's keep it as is. And then there's a script to link to popup.js. Let's create popup.js. Just going to contain the JavaScript related to our popup. Before we do anything else, how about we revisit our example extension, reload it, and let's pin it. And now let's see if we can see the pop-up. Oh, here's our pop-up. It looks absolutely awful. So let's make it look better. Let's add a style tag here in the head element. And now let's just copy the CSS code from popup.html in Trackless Chess project. Okay, just copy it and paste it. Okay, now let's go back to our browser and let's reload our extension. And now let's click the extension to see the pop-up. It looks much better, but of course, right now it's just for show. It doesn't do anything at all. So how can we get the toggle switch to work so that when we click on it, the H1 element color changes? It's a bit tricky because we have two JavaScript files, right? We will be writing the JavaScript related to the pop-up in popup.js. But we have the logic for changing the color of the H1 element in content.js. So how do we make content.js know if the checkbox is checked or not? Well, the answer is message passing. Message passing is the process through which different parts of a Chrome extension can communicate with each other. In our case, we want to send a message from popup.js and have it be received by content.js. And we want this message to be sent when the toggle switch is clicked or when there is a change on the toggle switch. Alrighty, so we can start out by making sure that our pop-up is loaded before we get a hold of the toggle switch element. So document.add event listener, DOM content loaded. Once DOM content loaded, we want to get a hold of our toggle switch element, which has the ID toggle switch. So let's set variable toggle switch and set it to document.getElementById toggle switch. Alrighty. Now let's add an event listener on our toggle switch element. So toggle switch.add event listener. And we want to listen on change. On change, we want to get the state of the input element. We want to know if it is checked or unchecked. So let's create variable is checked and set it to the state of our toggle switch. So toggle switch dot checked. Now we want to send the value of is checked to content.js. To do this, we are going to make a one-time request using tabs send message. Send message sends a single message to the content scripts in the specified tab. So how do we get the current tab? We can use tabs.query and we can query the active tab as well as the current window. Okay, so let's do it. So Chrome tabs.query, we want to set active to true. We also want to set current window to true. And then we want to add a callback function that's going to take the queried tabs array as a param. And now we want to actually send the message. So chrome.tabs.send message. So now we need to add the specified tab, which is going to be the first tab in the tabs array. Probably the tabs array is going to return only one tab, but we still need to select it. Okay, now we should also add .id since every Chrome tab has a unique ID. Now let's send the message. How about we give the message object the name checked, and the message we actually want to send is the value of is checked. Okay, so now we've made it so that whenever there's a change on the toggle switch, a message is gonna be passed to the content script. Now let's go to content.js and make sure that this message is received. Let's open popup.js to the side. Okie dokie. Now, the message that we're going to be sending from popup.js is whether the toggle switch is checked or not. So let's create a mutable variable in content.js to keep track of whether is checked, is true, or false. So let's call it is checked, and let's set the default to false. And now we want to get a hold of the message sent from popup.js. To do this, we are going to set up an event listener on runtime on message. I'm going to copy this snippet from the docs, paste it, and then we'll alter it so that it works for us. Okay, So what we've pasted is chrome.runtime.onMessage add listener. This is great. And we have a callback function with a params request. Request represents our message. Okay, so we are not going to have a use for sender or send response, so we can delete them. To simplify the code, all we want is request. Now, the first thing we want to do is we want to check if the message we want to receive, which we've called checked, is not undefined. So if request.check is not undefined, then we want to set the value of is checked to the value of the message. So is checked equals request dot checked. And now let's make it so that if is checked is true, headers would become pink, and if checked is false, then the headers would stay as they are. To do this quickly, we can use ternary operator. So is checked question mark pink. Otherwise, let's have the styling be as it was. Okie dokie. Now we can go back to our browser and we can reload our extension. Okay, and now let's go to any tab that we think might have h1 elements. Click on our extension and try to see if it works. Well, it doesn't. Maybe it would work if we cut this code, the code that affects the styling of h1 element, and put it inside the if statement so that it runs every time there is a message sent from popup.js. Okay, let's try again. Oh, there is an error. I'll delete it and refresh. Okay, so now let's refresh. Open our extension. Scroll up. Oh, it worked. We did it. Nice job, guys. Okay, but the way we've set this up would make the user's choice not be saved if the user closes the browser and opens it again, which would not be great user experience. Luckily, we can use Chrome storage API, which will allow us to persist users' choice across browser sessions. So to set the value of is checked in storage, we could use this code snippet, chrome.storage.sync.set, and then whatever it is we want to set. So I'm going to copy it and let's paste it in popup.js. And we can set the key to is enabled and set the value to is checked. Now that we have taken steps to save the value of is checked in storage, we'll be able to retrieve it and set the checkbox to the correct value that the user chose. So to do this, we can use chrome.storage.sync.get, and we want to get the value of is enabled, and then take that value and use it to set whether toggle switch is checked or not. So let's set toggle switch.checked to value dot is enabled. If there's no value found, then we want to make the default false. So now we need to go to content.js and make sure that the color of the headers changes based on the user's choice also. So right now we have an event listener that we have set to listen on messages that we sent from popup.js, And on message, it executes a code that changes the color of the h1 element. But we also now want the extension, whenever it runs, to check the user's choice, get it from storage, and based on the choice, change the color of the header. So let's get the choice from storage. So chrome.storage.sync.set, we want to get is enabled. And once we get it, we want to set the value of is checked. So is checked value dot is enabled. If there is nothing, let's have the value be false by default. This code where the header color changes is trapped inside the if statement. Let's copy it and let's paste it here. So once we got the value of is enabled from storage, it would get executed too. Now we're almost done setting this up, but we need to do one more thing. In order for storage to work properly, we need to declare storage permission in our extensions manifest. I'm just going to copy the permissions block from chrome.storage from the docs and just paste it in Manifest.json. Okay, that should do it. Now let's go back to our browser and let's go to extensions again. Let's reload. Okay, I don't see an error, which is a good sign. Now let's go to any page and refresh. Okay, now let's check on our extension. It is not checked. Let's check it. Okay, so let's keep it checked. And now let's open a new browser window. Okay, let's check on the extension. It's checked. Let's uncheck it and let's open a new window. Let's check on the extension. It's unchecked. Cool, it worked. We did it. Next order of business is getting a hotkey to toggle the functionality. We can achieve this using commands. As it says here, we can use commands to add keyboard shortcuts that trigger actions in our extension. And then it says that we must declare commands in the manifest in order to use the commands API. I'm going to scroll down and see if I can copy an example. Oh, yeah, we can copy this example here and paste it. All right, and now let's alter it so that it makes sense for us. So over here we have the name that we want to give our command. Let's make it something relevant. Perhaps we could call it toggle functionality. Okay, and then we have suggested key. Okay, so what hotkey should we choose? It should be a hotkey that we don't use for other things. How about we make it Alt-Y? Does Alt-Y do something? Well, I don't think so. So I'll make it Alt-Y. Alt plus Y. And for Mac, I don't think we need to specify a hotkey for Mac because Alt by default just becomes Option for Mac. So for Mac users, I think this key would just be Alt and Y. It will be Option and Y. Okay, and then let's add the description. Toggle H1 color. Now we're going to need to create a background script, which is also referred to as a service worker, in order to listen on hotkeys. Yes, okay. So as you can see here, it says that in our service worker, we can bind a handler to each of the commands defined in the manifest using commands.addListener. That's exactly what we are going to do now. But first, we also need to declare our service worker in manifest.json. So I'm gonna try to find an example where the service worker is declared. Yes, like exactly like this one. Okay, so I'll just copy this. The key for declaring service worker is background. So let's copy it and paste it in our manifest.json. Wait, there's something wrong with our manifest.json. Maybe. Oh, okay, now we fixed it. Okay, so now we can add a comma and add background. So now that we've declared our service worker, let's create service worker.js file. Okay, awesome possum. And now let's add an event listener to listen on our command. I'm just going to copy this example from the docs and paste it. So chrome.commands on command add listener command. Okay, so I'm gonna delete the console log bit, and first thing I wanna do is check what command was summoned. So if command is, what did we call our command again? Let me open this to the side, close popup.js. Okay, so the command is called toggle functionality. So if command is toggle functionality, then we want to update is enabled, which is the object in storage that allows us to keep track of whether our feature is active or not. So let's get it with chrome.storage.sync.set. And now let's define the callback function that's going to update the value of is enabled. It's chrome.storage.sync.set. And now we want to set is enabled to the opposite value of what it is at the point of the command being called. So to do this, I'll use the exclamation mark and data.isEnabled. Okay, and that should do it. The message we're gonna send is going to be syntactically very similar to the message we have sent from popup.js to content.js earlier. So I'm just going to copy it and I'll just paste it here. And here I will set checked to exclamation mark data is enabled. Okay, I think this should do it. So let's go back to our browser and let's go to extension. Let's reload our extension. I don't see errors. That's a good sign. Okay, let's go to any page and refresh. And now we set the hotkey to Alt-Y, right? So that's, oh, it worked. Nice. Okay, I'm using the hotkey, by the way, guys. In our pop-up, we have the shortcut set incorrectly. It's set to Alt plus H. So let's fix it in our popup.html. Let's make it Alt or Option plus Y. Okay. All right. Let's refresh. Yeah, it updated. Cool. Alrighty, now let's talk about best practices and things to do before publishing an extension. Do you guys remember how we added permissions to manifest.json and we declared storage in it? There are other permissions that we can declare to avoid our users getting errors when they try to use our extension, like the activeTab permission. Our extension relies on getting access to the activeTab in order to change the color. Also, we use the send message API and we use Chrome tabs API. So we should definitely add activeTab to our permissions in Manifest.json, like so. Now let's talk about publishing. Before I submitted my extension to Chrome Web Store, I went through the code and I tried to get it to look more presentable and make it readable, because I knew that someone who works for Google is gonna have to go through it and approve it. So I added comments to describe what parts of the code does, just to make the life of whoever is reviewing a bit easier, and as a result get my extension approved faster. Also, I tested my extension a lot before submitting it, and I took screenshots while testing it, because you are required to submit screenshots or a video showing how your extension works. So we said earlier that we want to submit version 3 of this trackless chest together. Let's do that. So we have edited the popup.html that previously had a typo, right? And now I think it doesn't have a typo, as far as I can tell. Okay, so since the version we'll be submitting will be version 3, let's go to manifest.json and change the version number to 3. Okay, and now let's test our extension to make sure it works before we submit it. So I'm gonna go to manage extensions and I'm gonna load unpacked, and I'll just load my chess extension. Okay, here it is, version 3. To not get confused, I'm going to disable version 2 and I'm gonna try out version 3. Alrighty, so we can try it out on chess.com. Let's pin it. Let's check on our pop-up. Okay, so the typo is gone. Okay, let's try playing a 1-minute game. Let's try the pop-up. Looks good. Let's try the hotkey. Also looks good. All right, super nice. To make sure my extension is ready, I'm going to play with it a bit more, and then I'll take a screenshot so I have it ready when we want to update the extension. But right now, let's talk about what you need to do in order to be able to publish your first extension before we get to updating. So in order to publish Chrome extensions on the Chrome Web Store, you are gonna need to go to developer.chrome.com and you are going to need to sign up for a developer account. The good news is it's so easy to do. You can just sign up super quickly with your Chrome email. The bad news is there's a one-time fee of $5. Once you register as a Chrome developer and pay the one-time fee, you'll be able to access Chrome Web Store Developer Dashboard. The Chrome Developer Dashboard is where you can manage your Chrome extensions, including publishing new versions, tracking usage, and reviewing user feedback. So this is my dashboard for this account. As you can see, I have 2 drafts and 1 published extension. If I wanted to add a new extension, I would click on New Item, and then I will be asked to drop a zip file here or select a file. Okay, so to create a zip file of the extension you want to publish, you just go to your extensions root directory, which in our case is chess extension. Here it is. You can just compress it. To compress mine, I just right click and hit add to archive and select zip. And let's call the file 3 because this is going to be the third version. Okay, here it is. Let me show you what would happen if I add a new item and upload the zip file we've just created. So as you can see, without us having to type anything, the name of our extension was already extracted from Manifest.json, as well as the description, which is of course a good sign that we've done something right. Okay, so of course there are so many other things we need to fill on this page and other pages. I'll show you exactly what I filled to publish my extension. Let's go back to our developer dashboard and let's click on distractless chess, the one that's actually published. Okay, so as you can see in the description section, I published a brief description of exactly what the extension does. And I said why users should install it. I added the category. Because my extension is related to games, I made the category games. I picked the language English. And then I added store icon, which has to be 128 pixels times 128 pixels. Then I added screenshots. Screenshots have to be 1280 pixels times 800 pixels. To make sure they fit the guidelines, I edited them on Photoshop. Now let me show you what I added in privacy. So the privacy section is probably the most intimidating. So first you need to describe the purpose of your extension very briefly. I just wrote down exactly what my extension does and why it was designed. All right, next we have the permission justifications section where we need to justify why we requested each of the permissions we have requested. So the first thing I had to justify was using storage. I said that it is essential to store users' setting preferences, like whether the distracting elements should be hidden or shown. I also said that it allows the extension to remember these things even when the user closes or reopens the browser. Then activeTab, I wrote, this permission is necessary for the extension to interact with the current active tab. In this case, the chess.com tab. Without this permission, the extension cannot modify the web page content like hiding player names, avatars, etc. in real time when the user toggles it on and off. Finally, host permission justification. So host permission is required to allow extensions to interact with particular websites. In our case, in the distractless chess extension, we need to be able to interact with chess.com. That's why we need to explain why we require host permission to chess.com. So what I wrote is, this extension requires host permissions to access chess.com in order to function effectively. The primary purpose of distractless chess is to enhance user experience on chess.com by hiding distracting elements such as opponent flags, usernames, avatar ranking, and the chat box. Access to chess.com domain is essential because the extension needs to read and modify the content of chess game interface. I wrote also that I want to assure users that this extension does not collect any personal data or track user activity outside the intended feature. The permissions are solely for enhancing focus during gameplay by minimizing distractions. I don't know if I needed to write all of that, but I wanted to be as descriptive as possible. You know, it's better to be safe than sorry, I guess. The trickiest part about posting your extension on Chrome Web Store, at least in my opinion, is figuring out what to write in the privacy section. Once you fill that, everything else is easy. Also, if you try to post something that's incomplete, like for example, let's go to our draft. you will find that you can't submit it for review, and you can click on why can't I submit, and then you will have all the reasons why. So there's that. It's very helpful to read through the list, and once you fix something, it disappears. It stops being on the list. Alrighty, so let's go back to the published version of Distractless Chess, because we actually want to submit an update, right? And we said that since we have fixed the pop-up, then we also want to show a picture of the updated pop-up. It's important to make sure to abide by the guidelines. I'm gonna make sure that my screenshot is 1280 times 800 pixels. So now, since I have a screenshot that is the correct size, I can delete the screenshot I want to replace, and I can add my new screenshot. Yay, it got added. Super cool. Okay, so now that we have changed something, we can save draft. Awesome. Now, how about we update our package to version 3. To update the version, we can click on package and upload new package. Now we need to add our zip file, the zip file we've created earlier. Here it is. Okay, so let's double click. It's uploading. Now it redirected us to store listing. I don't think we need to change anything in the description or anything like that, because we didn't change anything regarding the functionality. Before we hit submit for review, let's go back to package and look at the version number. Yep, version 3. Sounds like our extension zip file was uploaded successfully. So I guess we could go back to store listing and submit for review. Clicking submit for review makes me feel a bit nervous, because once I hit it, I'm going to have to wait for the result. And of course, a real human being is gonna look at my extension. So it's a good idea to give your extension a quick review before you submit it for review. I think my extension is ready to be submitted for review. I'm gonna take a deep breath and click on submit for review. Okay, so a pop-up appeared asking submit Distractless Chess for review, and then it says every extension is reviewed prior to publication, which can take up to several weeks. You can significantly decrease review time by using more narrowly scoped permission. Once it has passed reviews, the extension will be published automatically, or it can be staged to be published at a later time. By default, publish Distractless Chess automatically after it has passed review is selected for us. I'm gonna leave it that way and click submit for review. Let's do it. Okay, it's done. It is such a nice feeling to click this button. Can be also a bit nerve-wracking to wait for the result. I have submitted my extension 3 times to get reviewed. The first time I submitted it and I made the visibility unlisted, it got reviewed and accepted in 24 hours, I think, or less. And then the second time I made it public, it also took 24 hours to be changed from unlisted to public without any changes. The third time I submitted version 2, which had an improved functionality. When I submitted version 2, it was the weekend, so it took a bit longer than 24 hours. I think perhaps the nice people who review extensions maybe don't work on weekends. So if you submit the extension on a weekend, it might take a bit longer. But after the weekend, it got accepted pretty quickly. So it was a weekend and 24 hours. Today is Saturday, so I think it's gonna take longer than 24 hours because it's the weekend again. So yeah, we'll see. I really hope you enjoyed the video. If you have, please give it a thumbs up. And please don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments and I will try to answer them as soon as I can. If you have suggestions, I will also read them and keep them in mind. So type them down as well. If you end up creating an extension and posting it on Chrome Web Store, leave the link in the comments. I would love to check out your extension too. Right, have a lovely day and see you next time. Bye.